titles here. Okay, now there's many, many things that I could share about Merlin and Luanne, but what I want to focus on right now is mission trips that we've been on with them. And I want to attest to some of their character that I've discovered on these mission trips. Now, we went to Brazil one year, and we had this really neat Bible school, and the people there were just wonderful. And Luanne just loved on those kids and their parents, and she's just like such a beaming person, and her compassion just shows through that. So that is one characteristic, her compassion. In Puerto Rico, we went there one time, and Merlin had just had surgery on his shoulder before that, so he couldn't really do a whole lot. But his willingness to go, even though he couldn't lift and do all that, was really amazing. And so they're very willing. And then in the Azores, which are islands off of Portugal, we had this really old washing machine, and to dry our clothes, we had to go up on top of the roof, and that's where the clotheslines were. And this is the only time that I've seen Luanne in pants when she climbed the ladder to go to the roof to hang out laundry. And I was thinking that, she sacrificed for the team to do that. And then in Mexico, we went there with a whole bunch of people from around the country, Nazarenes, and we had a bunch of teams that went to various churches in Juarez, Mexico. And one team needed a welder, or needed welders, and it wasn't the team that Merlin and Phil Hammett were on, but they willingly went to the other team. They changed teams to be able to fulfill the need for a welder. So, and I think that shows flexibility. And then in Sri Lanka, Luanne will probably kill me for this one. But Luanne had an incident where she tried to remove some of her hair with an overheated curling brush. And we were getting ready for the district's church service or whatever, presentation thing there. And so we were trying to look our nicest. And of course, electricity is different there, so we plug a curling brush in our electricity, our outlets, it only goes to a certain temperature, while theirs is like crazy, so you plug it in, and the thing practically melted. In fact, it broke off in her hair. And Elaine and I were trying our darndest to get this out of her hair without making her bald. But, and all of this, Luanne is the one that had Elaine and I in stitches, just laughing at, and so with that, the characteristic I find is joy in any situation. If you can be happy with a curling iron brush, melting your hair, you can be joyful. And then in Africa, the characteristic I knew there was a lot of hard work. Merlin bent frames for chairs. They made their own chairs. And so that was his hard job. Luanne painted ceilings in a clinic. And if any of you guys know how hard it is to paint ceilings, it's very hard. And so she was our ceiling painter. And so that's another characteristic, very hard workers. And then in Peru, Luanne used her accidental fall in a small pool of water outside the hotel to illustrate in her devotional to the team the next day that you just don't give up even when you try to walk on water and fail. And that's what I call humility. She was willing to share her humbling experience with all of us and have a good point to go with it. So all in all, like I said, there are many observations through the years working closely with Merlin and Luanne. But one thing that I found out that with Merlin and Luanne on your team, on your side, in your church family, it's just almost impossible to have a bad day.
As most people know, this isn't my favorite thing to do, but when I was asked, I certainly couldn't say no. We've had so many good times down through the years. And Luanne is my Sunday school teacher, but I'll get ahead of mine because I got it all wrote down. As my Sunday school teacher, and I said, I just can't talk about Sunday school, so this is what I want to talk about. I have known Merlin and Luanne for a very long time. Luanne was about 8 and Merlin was 11 when I first came to Mount Hope. My brothers and my sisters and I grew up together with the Franks and the Huffman kids. I remember Merlin, he was more quiet, but maybe a little ornery. I won't tell you things, but a little ornery. He was a good ball player. And when he was a little older, I remember his car. He wanted it shined up all the time. I remember that. Luanne was quieter also, but I remember her and her brother Jim would sing in church, and I always enjoyed that a lot. Merlin had friendly parents, and I loved to hear Jimmy, his dad, pray. He talked really fast, but he was a very sincere man, a very friendly man, and I felt privileged to know him. I enjoyed many times talking with Merlin's mom, Selma. She was a deeper person, and when she said something, it was worth listening to. Luanne's dad was the first young adult teacher that Phil and I had, and Luanne is a lot like him as a teacher. Ralph cared a lot about us. We were in their home many times, and she had a wonderful mom. Luanne is like her mom in many ways too. Evelyn was friendly, very friendly, and enjoyed working for the Lord. She was the first person to make a big impression on me at Mount Hope. Merlin and Luanne are fortunate to have a good Christian heritage. Recently, Merlin had to have open heart surgery to repair a large aneurysm in his heart. And he also had a valve replaced. It was very sobering. That's to say the least. We were at the hospital before surgery, and I said something to Merlin. I don't remember what it was, but he said, well, if I don't make it, I'll see you in heaven. Isn't that what we've been living for all these years? How true. But Merlin is still needed here. So God allowed him to live, and we are glad. Amen. Many, many, many prayers went up on Merlin's behalf, and God was gracious. Merlin is handy and was always willing to help around the church and the parsonage. He mowed the yard and did many other tasks concerning the church's upkeep, more so in the background. Luanne lives her faith every day of the week as Merlin does. She always is inquiring if we know how this one or that one in her Sunday school class is doing. She is faithful to call on those in her class, not only in her class, but others in the church too. Merlin is very supportive to Luanne as a teacher and in calling also. When Luanne started teaching the senior adult class, Phil and I were in the young adult class. Do you remember that? Forever we were in the young adult class. No one wanted to move out. And we were being encouraged to move, maybe even pushed a little. And so I told Phil, well, let's just go into Luanne's